Still pumping out Dragon Ball Z games focusing on the same story. Thank goodness we're not falling for it and not buying them. Damn, we were so close to the perfect timeline. Dragon Ball Z Kakarot is a game focusing on the story from Dragon Ball Z, the one that we all have come to know and love. It's all here, the Saiyan Saga, the Frieza Saga, the Cell Saga, and the Boo Saga, along with plenty of side quests in between for that RPG vibe. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button and see a magic trick on the button. And don't forget to enable notifications to make sure you're never missing an upload. Not gonna lie to everyone, the magic trick is just seeing the word subscribe change to subscribed. I actually don't really know any magic tricks. My conscience came back and wanted me to apologize for that, so hopefully with me being humble was enough to get a laugh out of you. Hey everyone, again, so sorry about that. Me being humble about apologizing for the lack of magic tricks was actually part of the script. And I felt that explaining it seemed to be kind of like a funny move. Sorry for distracting you from the review. Enjoy a picture of a meme. For those who don't know, Dragon Ball Z follows the tale of Son Goku and his family and friends composed of the Z Fighters, fighting powerful foes to protect the Earth, while at the same time appeasing Goku and Vegeta's desire to be the very best, like no one ever was. I'm not really going to go into the story due to it being Dragon Ball Z, and due to avoiding spoilers, and I'm pretty sure about 95% of everyone watching this knows the story already, so let's just check in my overall thoughts, the positives and the cons that I've experienced with this game. For starters, I love the presentation of the entire game. This game literally feels like it's straight out of the anime. From the classic announcer during any major events, changes in the saga, and of course, that cheesy little intro at the start of nearly every episode. I can't tell you how much more this made me smile compared to playing some of the classic games, such as Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi 3, or even more recently, Xenoverse 2. Sure, both great games in their own right, but just having the nostalgic push really hits hard. Visually, the game is great. Looks very smooth and still holds that classic Akira Toriyama style. I know we've been starting to see what the next-gen versions of this game are going to look like, but I'm actually more of the fan of the current presentation, with the more cel-shaded style gives it to the vibe of being more reminiscent of the anime. I played this on PlayStation 4 to give you perspective on the console and what to expect with my experience. Another selling point I love about this game is the open world aspect of this game and the amount of customization. Yes, you heard me right. You can travel to so many different areas in this game that spans throughout the original Dragon Ball, along with Dragon Ball Z. It's still very much a linear experience for the most part, but having the option to go and explore various locations being Earth and other planets such as Namek adds another layer of immersion that I didn't know I wanted for so long. Throughout the worlds, you can collect various Z orbs, which are used to power up your character's skill tree, basic abilities to have higher damage output, and other various effects. And at this, I was kind of turned off by these, but honestly, you don't need to collect them all, and generally, flying is a pretty common method of travel until you need to start fast traveling. So it's not a big deal of collecting them, it's kind of more like the, while I'm traveling in this area, might as well grab these since I'm already heading in the same direction sort of thing.
No, he's got a point.
Along with the orbs, there's another important aspect to talk about, which are ingredients. Cooking is an aspect of this game that holds some merit. You see, you can cook meals with various ingredients at campfires or by visiting Chi-Chi. And these meals not only provide you some sort of benefit for a time limit, but also as a permanent buff to your character. These can go a long way to help give you a bit more health, defense, or even more damage output when trying to take down the various fights thrown in your way. Finally, another customization aspect I want to talk to you all about, of course, besides being the support mechanic and the skill tree, is the community board. Throughout the game, you unlock, let's call these pieces. You can load onto a character board that influences key things such as combat, cooking, training, and a few other things. And these pieces are actually characters from the anime, and depending on where you put them on the board, which board specifically, and next to who, can provide additional benefits. So when doing this aspect, try remembering to place the characters have a solid relationship with each other, because ultimately it can unlock some additional benefits versus not having them together at all. The music and the voice acting in this game are all fantastic. Of course, coming from the same voice actors from Funimation, I mean Crunchyroll now, we have everyone voicing all the characters you have come to know and love. And honestly, I gotta say, it may just be a bit better with the recording technology over the years, but I'm favoring the voice acting in this game over some of the stuff in the anime.
Are you talking about Krillin? Don't you dare talk about Krillin!
True, the time from the anime to now has definitely come a long way and they've definitely gained some experience. And I'm also still trying to figure out if it might just be because of some aspects I like in the game more than in the anime in terms of sound design, like the background music or even just some sound effects. However, both are still very solid. I will totally own up to the fact that I didn't watch every single cutscene during my playthrough of Kakarot, due to watching the anime a few times and playing so many other Dragon Ball Z games in the franchise, but the scenes I did watch were just wonderful, including the driving mini saga with Goku and Piccolo. Yeah, that's in here too. The combat feels a bit like Dragon Ball Xenoverse, which is way more open than like the Budokai games, but not as open as the Tenkaichi games. It's a good balance of the best of both worlds, you versus your opponents in a big open environment utilizing both key-based attacks, special physical attacks, and of course your standard melee options as well as your ultimate finishers. The only thing I wish was a bit different on how the physical fighting is compared to this game, like in Xenoverse 2, is the melee combat system as well. In Xenoverse 2, there's a bit more attention to doing melee combos with usually the utilization of 2 buttons, as opposed to Kakarot just using the 1 button for melee. Not a deal breaker, but it does lower the amount of diversity you will experience with your combos in some aspects when you're just using melee attacks. And ultimately, sometimes you'll just following up and doing the same patterns of charging your ki and unleashing some of your most powerful attacks, and choose to fight that way. One thing that is actually a neat concept in this game though, is also during the combat, the foes, the bosses, may utilize some desperation moves. These attacks are often very powerful and large in scale and will cause you to flee the area of damage as soon as possible just to avoid it. Again, helping mirroring the anime really well. Finally, during your combat, once your character has unlocked transformation states, you can transform to do far more damage than your current base state. And trust me, these make a huge impact and it makes the act of transforming more special because it's a great example of it actually feeling a difference compared to your first base state. Some of my complaints with this game I feel are minor but still should be brought up. Aside from the stiffness of the physical aspect of combat here or there, this game does have some absurd difficulty spikes. A few that I remember being a bit of a pain was during the Nappa fight. Fighting the Ginyu forces at once being Jais and Berter, and even some of the androids coming in due to them the absorbing ki blasts and ki attacks, was definitely not a fun way to experience. Dragon Ball Kakarot itself doesn't really have an easy way to farm experience without it usually taking up quite a bit of time. Sure, you can create and gather some items to increase the amount of experience earned over a set amount of time, continue to do side quests in the overworld and or ram into battles in the overworld, or challenge battles that have a red aura. But I often would find these methods to be quite slow in comparison or may just be too difficult, especially with the red aura enemies. There is a DLC option you can buy which allows you to train with Whis and Beerus. However, this feature is not in the base game. But I will say this is definitely the fastest way to max out your characters. So being put in a position where you feel a bit overwhelmed at certain aspects in the game and a bit of a huge spikes really just sucks. So in those cases, never forget equipping some healing items, maybe making a few dishes, maximize your community board, and try to find a strategy to take down your opponent. Another issue that I've experienced quite a bit with this game is actually the performance of the frame rate. Granted, I played this on the PlayStation 4. However, there were quite a few instances, especially during the Frieza saga, where the frame rate was so choppy at one point I thought my disc was skipping.
Dare you! You're gonna pay for that! What? take Piccolo with you and head back to Earth now! Hurry, Gohan! Before I lose what little sense of reason I have left!
Okay.
What's going on? What's happened to him? No, it can't be!
I think I know what's going on. My dad finally did it. He's become a Super Saiyan.
I've had enough. Now I'm mad, Frieza!
You will know your place, you filthy Saiyan!
I even was thinking that it might just be a sign that my PS4 needed a break since I was finishing this game in only a few days, while working a full-time and streaming a few times a week at twitch.tv/metallicaerox. And that day was actually one of my longer gaming sessions. But no, I saved, and I turned it off, and waited until the next day to come back to the game and had the same weird buggy performance with the frame rate. So be warned, there may be some frame issues, especially during cutscenes, but this issue rarely presented itself in terms of combat. Another complaint that was actually a bit as well was the RPG elements they did do. Like, don't get me wrong, I love the fact that you have levels for the Z Fighters, battle power or your power level, and of course stats, right? However, when it comes with how the game is laid out, sometimes you'll have to use characters who are severely underleveled compared to what gets thrown at you because you're using someone like Goku, Piccolo, or Vegeta for the majority of the game because that's who you're expected to use at that point in the story. Like, I'm not going to be able to use Tien much up to the point against Nappa and Vegeta at first, right? No, it just doesn't really make sense since we barely get the time to use Tien up to this point, or Yamcha or other various side characters. Just give me Gohan or Piccolo and we'll take care of it. This game does provide all the characters a fraction of some of the experience gained along the way from the last time you've used them up to certain points when they will be used again, which does help a little bit, but generally it's not enough to bring them up to speed in terms of where the other characters are at this point in time, which can cause a bit of an unfair spike due to being given underdeveloped resources compared to what you'll be facing off against at that time. All in all, that's right, you know my reviews are nearly done when I mention all in all. Dragon Ball Z Kakarot personally was one of my favorite Dragon Ball games in quite some time. It sticks to landing as the most anime-like game that we received up to date, introducing some interesting concepts to set us apart, aside from some performance hiccups and a bit of jarring spikes throughout the story. I was able to complete the main story, some side quests, and 2 out of the 3 DLC current episodes in just under 23 hours. Not a terribly long game, but still fun nonetheless, and there are times you can actually snag this game for under 20 bucks. And if we get more games like Kakarot in the future, or even some DLC post the Bardock episode, well, I think as anime fans, we are in for a good time. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this video and myself talk about one of my new favorite Dragon Ball games in recent memory. I would definitely recommend this to anyone. I hope you get a shot to check it out sometime down the road. Let me know in the comments section your thoughts on the game, or even who your favorite characters in the Dragon Ball universe are. For me, it's probably Piccolo, Gohan, and or Vegeta. See you next time, everyone.